as President Cyril Ramaphosa prepares to appear for a second time at the State Capture Commission of Inquiry, whistleblowers who've appeared at the commission are calling for protection and support. Cynthia Stimpel, an SAA whistleblower, is joining me now to talk more about this. Cynthia, grateful for your time. So you are part of this group that will tomorrow take part in what you've described as a peaceful demonstration outside the state capture hearings. Why tomorrow?
Thank you, Timingile, for allowing me on your show today. Why tomorrow? Because our President, Cyril Ramaphosa, will be giving evidence at the Zondo Commission, and we want to bring the awareness of the plight of whistleblowers to him, and hence we will be doing it tomorrow.
And you've had a petition going around recently, and you say you've got thousands of signatures. Run us through the detail of your demands and what you want from the president.
So it's basically that the plight of whistleblowers should be focused on. The people who have come to the Zondo Commission having told the truth about what has happened. These whistleblowers have suffered through losing their jobs or being victimized or being retaliated against. They have lost their livelihood. They have lost their jobs. Some have suffered extreme detriment, occupational detriment, and detriment in every other aspect. And so our demands are not as specifically as saying this is what we want. The president, in his last appearance at the Zondo Commission, stated that he will start putting the issues of whistleblowers to the fore, A, starting with the legislation, then B, recognizing where their plights are and resolving it. And we obviously want him to do that, to put his money where his mouth is.
And Cynthia, just on whistleblower protection, most companies, most departments, at the face of it, would tell you that they do have policies to protect people who come forward to report wrongdoing by their colleagues or management, right? Same applies with government departments. So is the issue really in South Africa a lack of legislation, or the fact that even when there is legislation, the networks run so far and wide that even that is jumped over?
Exactly. So the current Protected Disclosures Act, which I found out through my research, has been written to satisfy a United Nations directive. So when that Protected Disclosures Act is enforced within various organizations through whistleblowers following and making a protected disclosure, they are not truly protected. So the legislation is not working. It is ineffective. And so whoever the company is, they are using other methods to retaliate against whistleblowers. The fact is that they go through the labor law, the Labor Relations Act. They charge whistleblowers for misconduct, and you end up fighting through a different mechanism rather than enforcing the Protected Disclosures Act.
And just on that point, you were at South African Airways as group treasurer. You then were basically forced out of South African Airways because you dared to report wrongdoing. For the benefit of South Africans who aren't familiar with your story, talk to us about how you suffered the consequences of reporting wrongdoing in South Africa.
Thank you for that question. So on my side, I was employed by SAA as they initially started my first 8 years as the group financial risk manager, and then became the group treasurer in the last 2 years. Within those 10 years of working there, I always deputized for the group treasurer. I came across a procurement transaction which was irregular and tried to stop it initially in its initial stages when it was the first part of it where we needed to come up with a transaction advisor, and then changing the scope of the work of the transaction advisor, which led to my then being dismissed by SAA. The irony of the situation is that SAA said didn't whistleblow, one. Two is that I committed misconduct. Three, that I was insolent. I had a charge of insolence against the board. So there were all these other charges versus and saying I didn't follow the internal whistleblowing procedure. What transpired is then I've lost my job, and I was really confident but naive that having a master's, an MBA, I would quickly get a job, but I still didn't. Sending my CVs to various banks, to universities, I just could not get a job. So that's one of the plights you suffer. The second part is that you suffer through mental, physical health. Fortunately, on my side, I didn't go through that because I just had a strong internal belief system in my own faith belief, and I had a strong family support, and I had a strong physical regime through my yoga, and I think that all kept me together. But not everyone goes through, is that fortunate, and hence the reason why we are now standing up for the plights of whistleblowers, that there are those who are suffering right now mentally and cannot even afford doctors' fees because they don't have medical aid. So how do you quantify that? Sometimes it is far more that you cannot even calculate the damage done to families, to the children of that family of the whistleblower, to the long-term effects.
So what it is
the third party of
Cynthia, what it is, from what I'm hearing you say, is there's a need to strengthen post-reporting care for whistleblowers. Yes, you, for example, were hounded out of South African Airways, but there are people who, yes, report and some degree of action is taken or issues are swept under the rug, but it takes a toll on you either way.
Correct. Agree. So it's a holistic view on protecting the whistleblower upfront on how to whistleblow and ensure that the legislation protects that whistleblower, and then the consequence effects of that. And I think if one just goes through our recent history over the past couple of years, there was the SABC8 who stood up. I mean, some of them suffered. There was, through that, there were whistleblowers from Trillion, both Msila Matepo, Bianca Goodson. They can tell their stories of how they suffered financially and from a mental, physical debilitation. Then there's Themba Maseko. You know, the list goes on. Ethel Williams, myself, there's just various. And how do we protect them? Currently, we have a case in point called Martha Nangoya with a PRASA. I've been following her story via Zondo, and right now she's being retaliated against by PRASA. That should be stopped, you know, and really, we really need to stand up when our employees are loyal to the organization and they're trying to prevent fraud happening currently within that organization. And then you have your CEOs, your executives, your board who are stopping that person and bringing all other charges against them to stop them. And and for me, that is just unacceptable. And we need to start finding a methodology immediately on protecting whistleblowers. We cannot wait another 2, 3 years, 5, 10 years. It has to be done now. And hence the reason why we're ready to stand up and tell our president now he needs to make that change.
Cynthia, grateful for your time on Newsweek PM today. Cynthia Stimpel, one of a group of people who are going to demonstrate, they say, peacefully outside the State Capture Commission venue tomorrow, where President Cyril Ramaphosa will return to give evidence. We'll bring you full coverage of that tomorrow, Wednesday.